I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City of Post Falls Planning and Zoning Commission to order on this evening, on June 11th, 2019. Will you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Do roll call.
Steffensen.
Here.
Carey.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Bishop.
Here.
Hampe.
Here.
All right. Staff, any amendments to the agenda this evening?
There's none.
Ceremonies, appointments, announcements, and/or presentations of any nature?
None there either.
Seeing none, we'll move on to declaration of conflict. Any declaration of conflict to declare this evening?
No.
Seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. Mr. Manley?
Yeah. Item A is the minutes from the May 14th meeting. Item B is the Acuff annexation, file number ANNX1 2019, the reasoned decisions. Item C is the Green Meadows, first edition annexation, file number ANNX2 2019, reasoned decision. Item D is the Berkshire major subdivision amendment, file number SUBD2 2019 reasoned decision. And item E is the Peregrine Place major subdivision amendment, file number SUBD6 2019 reasoned decision.
Any comments on consent calendar? If not, I'd look for a motion.
I move to approve as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Call for vote.
Hampe.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Steffensen.
Abstain.
Citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on issues that are not on the agenda this evening. Comments on this issue, issues that are planned for future meetings should also be held until that future meeting. Do we have any citizen issues? Yes, sir. I know you've come up before, but make sure to state your name, address, and go ahead.
This is Daniel Finley. I live at 257 North Vine Street in Post Falls. There was an article in the Coeur d'Alene Press, probably a month or two ago now, which was addressed to you, the P&Z committee. I don't know, I'm assuming you probably saw it, and it was frustration over the townhouses / apartments being developed in the Crown Point subdivision. And I understand their frustration because I'm sure it's difficult for people who have lived here as long as I've been alive to watch their town transform into something that they don't recognize anymore. And I can understand why people who thought that residential meant no apartments, that they're shocked in seeing apartments and townhouses come up. But I did want to present to the Planning and Zoning Committee just my thanks for making sure that we try to keep up with the pace of development. People like me who maybe don't have, or who are just starting out, they don't have a lot of income, we're being priced out of Kootenai County because the supply cannot keep up with the demand. And just the loudest voices aren't always the only voices. And I want to thank you guys for zoning for everybody in the city. And that will mean denser population areas. Unfortunately, it's not the best solution, it's the only solution. And I think we could be more innovative and maybe more clear. I know we've moved to smart zoning code, and I think that's maybe a step in the right direction. There's still a lot of confusion over how zoning works in our city. But I presented this to the mayor last city council meeting, and I wanted to come here to talk to the committee here in person too, and just thank you for remembering, the other people who can't afford to move into a single family home yet, but who are working toward that, who also need a place to live in our beautiful area. So I'd just like to thank you for that, and that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Any other citizen issues? Seeing none, I believe we have no unfinished or old business. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Then that brings us to the public hearings. We will go ahead and start off with the first one, Berkshire Place Major Subdivision. Mr. Manley to present.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Manley, Planning Manager here, introducing the Berkshire Place subdivision. This may look familiar. We just saw this proposal last month. It was for a 9-lot subdivision. What they're proposing is an 8-lot subdivision. So looking into the code, if they were proposing the exact same subdivision, it would be ineligible. They'd have to wait for a year to bring this back. But since they did make some changes, they are eligible, and the proper notification went for this as well. So the applicant is Gordon Dorbler, representing Polar Company LLC. So they are looking to modify what was originally the Black Stallion Ranch First Edition subdivision, and that find that the proposal and their change would meet the subdivision criteria found in the ordinance with any other conditions that you would see deemed necessary. So what you see here is they're requesting 8 lots rather than the 7 lots for the original. And I'll go into more detail about this as I go through this. So the project location is what you see here highlighted in red. It's just a little bit west of the intersection of Chase and Pole Line. It's just north of the Montrose subdivision and south of the Meadows. Looking at zoning of this area, the light yellow is an R1S. Typically that would be a 1 acre lot minimum unless otherwise approved through a PUD. And you can see looking at this that the lot sizes range in sizes. Near this particular project, they're closer to about 0.4 acres next to this. In the darker yellow, the yellow here, that's the R1 zoning, and that allows lots to be developed at a square footage of about 6,500 square feet. In purple, just to a little bit to the east, that's smart code zoning. The SC3 is very similar to the R1, and the darker purple is more like a medium density product that's facilitated in smart code. Property size for this is, they're looking at a remaining portion of what was originally an annexation of 5.3 acres, of which, once again, I'll go into further detail. Current land use of this is vacant. Physical characteristics is grassland and other vegetation. There's no real topographical challenges. The water provider would be East Green Acres, and that will serve letter can be seen in Exhibit A7 in the staff report, with sewer being provided by the City of Post Falls. Here's the proposed subdivision plan. Here you can see that they got, here's their 5 lots and then 3 lots to the north of what's Miss Hannah Avenue. Go back to Black Stallion here. What they plan on is extending Miss Hannah to the west and just down to the southwesterly into a cul-de-sac. There is going to be a temporary fire easement at this point to allow some turning around at that cul-de-sac. These 8 lots would be done in a single phase. They range between 12,000 and 30,000 square feet, all of which is greater than what would be in an R1 zone. The dwellings for this, for the 4 acres, would be 1.98 units per acre for that remaining portion. 2 was what was facilitated through that annexation agreement for the 5.3 acres. Talked about the extension of Hannah Street. So looking at this amendment, we'd be looking at the same criteria as we would as we're looking at a subdivision. One is there enough water for this? So East Green Acres and then has said that they can facilitate that with their will serve letter. The second one deals with being able to facilitate public sewer for this. City of Post Falls can provide services as mentioned in your staff report. Third one is proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element in the comprehensive plan. Although this isn't a major arterial or collector, this is a local residential street within a subdivision, would be consistent with the Post Falls city standards for local residential streets. Fourth one is that all areas of proposed subdivision may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards. It's been identified there is none. The fifth one's really the key one on this amendment is, does this area for this proposed subdivision, is it zoned right, and is there any other requirements found in this code that would enlighten whether it should be approved or denied? And that's where we'll look at this annexation agreement here in just a minute. The sixth one deals with new development paying its fair share of costs. So you're not passing it on to the current population base, that new growth kind of pays for itself. This is handled through impact fees, and for residential, that would be parks, streets, and public safety. Those are the three elements of impact fees. So in 2006, City Council approved this annexation for 5.3 acres just west of Black Stallion, right here as you see highlighted. And here, then they stated in that annexation agreement a cap of 2 dwelling units for the 5.3. So that would lead 10 lots potential for this whole annexation area. They got approved subsequently for an 8-lot subdivision. As you see here, you saw 3 to the north, and then you had the 5 south of this road. Ultimately, they didn't plat this, they didn't pursue this, but they did pursue a minor subdivision in 2008, and they created a 1-acre lot at this location, leaving this approximate 4-acre piece today that we're looking at doing the amendment to go from 8 to 7 lots. Once again, here's the proposed plan, all of which meet the minimum of 2 units per acre, consistent with the annexation agreement and the R1 zoning. These were the agencies that were routed on this public hearing, and Post Falls Police commented as a neutral stance on the proposal, and that's with an exhibit PA1. So I'd stand for any questions you have for me regarding this proposed subdivision right now.
Questions for staff?
No.
No. Okay, thank you, sir. Bring up the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. You saw most of this at the last meeting, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but just to recap a few points. I think what we heard at the last meeting was commission not really comfortable with basically taking up all the allowed density on the original 5 acres, and the existing 1-acre lot, at least because of the density, would not be able to subdivide. There may be other reasons, but we can't speak to that. So really, quite simply, we dropped a lot. It's now the 4 acres itself stands alone, meets the 2-acre or the 2 units per acre imposed in the annexation agreement by the council. Everything else is the same. The streets, the water, the sewer's already there, and this, of course, would allow the lot to the south to be subdivided, everything else being equal. That's pretty much it.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Individual comment. All right, so we have 3 individuals in opposition. First one does not wish to comment, Joseph Mitchell. I object to this proposal because it's not in line with the plot layout on the file of the city. I object to the language used in the notice of the hearing. This developer does not own 5.3 acres, they own 4, which is not 1.7 lot per acre, but 2 lots per acre. And I'm concerned how the language and these numbers on file will open the door to other issues in the future. In opposition, wishing to speak, Mr. Bob Flowers.
Bob Flowers, 3914 East Maplewood Avenue here in Post Falls. My only objection really to this particular development is the city's own wording of approximately 4 acres. Approximately this. Do we really even know for sure how much land is really there? In other words, they're wanting to put 2 homes per acre, which is great. It's, you know, it's a decent sized lot. But until somebody can actually tell me that they really do have that, and that road system, that roundabout, I'm not sure where's the other side of it. In other words, is it on somebody else's property, this road? Or does it just deadhead right there at the property line? Because that doesn't look like a complete turning circle to me for anything. It looks like a big fire hazard for the fire trucks. And if you eliminate the land that's in that road, how many acres is really there is buildable? In other words, I'd like the city to really tell me that there is 4 acres there to be built on before you allow more than 2 homes per acre. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers.
Chairman Davis, I can answer that really quick. I have the map up in front of me. It's 4.024 acres.
Okay, 4.024. Okay. Do you have another individual in opposition that wishing to speak? It is, help me with your name? Karen Godak. I didn't want to butcher the last name. I apologize. Come up once again, state your name, address, and you have 4 minutes. Okay.
I apologize for the mud on my scrubs. I was carrying blackberry starts. Okay. So I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions or not. I have 3 questions regarding this.
Just so you know, any questions that you ask, the applicant has time for rebuttal. So if they choose to answer the questions within that, then they will.
Okay, thank you. My first one is that these public notices continue to include verbiage about the 5.3 acres in the original annexation, even though he only has ownership and building rights to 4.023. So that makes it not 1.7 dwelling units per acre, but less than that. And I continue to be concerned that that might cause an issue or be an important distinction for the homeowner of the 1 acre. So I don't know if that's important or not, but that is a concern that I have. If this is approved tonight, is that it? Is that done? Do we have to keep our eyes open for city council meetings and planning and zoning committee meetings for the next 1 or 3 or 5 years? Or is that done and we don't have to keep being concerned that we're going to try to sneak 9 houses in there or 27 houses in there? My third one is at Black Stallion Ranch, our current CCNRs and HOA rules include 7 houses on that piece of land. So since he is changing it, and he's changing it to Berkshire Place subdivision, our CCNR is required, because that means then that he's going to have to go back in and file his own, because he's no longer in compliance with the ones that we have already in place. I don't know if that's required or not, but that is another concern that I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. was going to say to staff, do we want to address any of those issues?
I can probably speak to the first two. The third one I will leave to others. The first question about the notice, then the application is for an amendment of an existing subdivision. The existing subdivision included the entirety of the site. So we notice from that larger subdivision. The practical impact of that is we actually notice more people than we otherwise would because you measure 300 feet around the perimeter of that. So we're actually providing more notification by doing that. There really is no practical impact beyond that other than it's an amendment to a larger subdivision. Second one, what was the second issue?
Is this final?
So the answer to that is yes, it's a final. This would be the last hearing absent an appeal to the city council. Having said that, anybody is entitled to come in and seek an application to subdivide or to change their application. We would go through the same process again if that was to come up. I mean, and that's true of essentially you have the right, anyone has the right to seek an application to subdivide their property as long as it's in conformance with the city codes. But
Okay, thank you for those two. Does applicant want to come up for any rebuttal? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Just real quickly, just for clarity, 4.024 acres. The density is 1.98, so it meets the density requirement. And the turnaround, I've spoke personally with the fire marshal, Gerald Archer. He's fine with it. We had it, in order to meet his exact criteria, we have a little turnaround, a little 10, 15-foot piece to get their trucks turned around. We work with city staff on the design of that. It's actually a little, we gave them a little bit more street than they had in the original subdivision approval, so we've got a full street width. Yeah, the one comment was, where's the rest of it? It would be built with, conceptually, with when and if development occurs on the west side, but it's standalone right now and meets fire department requirements.
Okay.
That's it.
One quick question. Any comment on the CCNRs?
CCNRs, well, at this point, there's really no common area that would be maintained, so we're not anticipating an HOA or CCNRs.
Okay.
If city staff is creative and there's a need for it, then yes, we would file our own CCNRs and own HOA.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Applicant, staff?
No, I don't have any.
None? No. Okay, we'll go ahead and close it out. We'll open it up for comment and or a motion.
I don't have any more. I think the developers tried to work with it and did clarified what we were confused about or what we were concerned about at the last meeting, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I would entertain a motion then.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I move that we approve the Berkshire Place Major Subdivision Amendment, SUBD 0012-2019, subject to conditions 1 through 9.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Call for vote.
Steffensen,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Hampe.
Yes.
All right, so move. This brings us to the second public hearing, which would be the Beck Road Apartment SUP.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Hayes. I'm Planner 1 with the Community Development Department, and I am here to present the Beck Road Apartment Special Use Permit, case file USE-2-2019. The owner is Rudine Development, and the applicant is Lake City Engineering. The requested action is the approval of a special use permit authorizing 132 multifamily units on approximately 7.4 acres in the Community Commercial Services Zone. In the Post Falls Municipal Code, the CCS, or Community Commercial Service Zone, has something that refers to the residential uses that may be allowed within this zone at densities permitted by the high-density multifamily residential R3 zone by special use permit when they will not compromise present uses. Hatched in red is the subject site. You can see the Woodbridge single-family neighborhood to the east. We have the Point Apartments to the southwest, and Walmart, Cisco, and we have Southeast Way running north, Jacqueline Road running to the south, and Beck Road running north and south. This is a closer view of the subject site, where you can see the roads around it, the built environment around the proposal. Once again, the project size is 7.4 acres with a proposed 132 units, making a density of 17.8, which is less than the R3 requirement, or maximum density of 18. The water provider is East Green Acres Irrigation District, and the water reclamation would be provided by Post Falls. This is the project proposal here. It looks like there's 6 units. And then once again, just for orientation, here's Southeast, Beck, and then Jacqueline Road running to the south. You can see that we have 2 units fronting Jacqueline, 2 fronting Beck, and then we have the Woodbridge residential neighborhood right here, and it looks as if they are trying to provide a little bit of separation for that neighborhood. The zoning map depicts everything in red as CCS, everything in yellow as single-family residential, and the gray is industrial. So you can see that the project proposal is in a community commercial service zone, hence the special use permit. The future land per use map depicts that the subject site is also designated as commercial. The purple is designated industrial, and the yellow is residential. Once again, the comprehensive plan designation is that the subject site is commercial. The current land use is vacant. The land use and the zoning are mixed residential, commercial, and industrial. There are 4 review criteria for a special use permit. 1 is the implementation of the special use will or will not conform to the purposes of the applicable zoning district. And as we know from what I stated earlier, that the purpose of the CCS zone is to support a wide array of retail and service uses, including some manufacturing, technical, and other professional uses, as well as multifamily residential uses. And that they may be allowed within the zone at densities permitted by the high-density multifamily residential R3 zone with a special use permit when they will not compromise present uses. And multifamily is typically developed in a 2 to 3 story fashion in heights that are typically clustered in a way to help mitigate more intense noise, light, and traffic impacts created by roadway networks, and in this case, potentially commercial and industrial uses. If the proposed multifamily development SUP is approved, then the proposed development will be required to complete the site plan review process, ensuring compliance with the city code requirements. As far as parking is concerned, the development would be required to provide 1.5 parking stalls for each 1-bedroom unit and 2 parking stalls for every 2-bedroom unit, mitigating any on-street parking. Review criteria 2 is whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by this chapter for the zoning district involved and complies with all other applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations of the city and the state. In the land use table contained in the Post Falls Municipal Code, Title 18.20.030, it lists multifamily, 3 or more units per structure as an allowable special use in the CCS zone. And review criteria 3 is whether the proposed use will or will not be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with land uses in the vicinity. And there are no noxious characteristics that would impact health, safety, or general welfare of the community. As far as transportation is concerned, there are no anticipated impacts that would adversely impact the adjoining transportation system, and the existing roadway network has capacity to handle the proposed land use. Saltese is a principal arterial, Beck Road is a minor arterial, and Jacqueline Road is classified as a future major collector, which are some of the road classifications that are preferred for higher density commercial industrial areas. There are multiple locations or access locations that would be provided to distribute traffic, and which would be reviewed at the time of site plan review, and there is close proximity to I-90. The fire protection issues will be handled at the time of site plan review. And review criteria 4 is whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan. The overarching goals in the comprehensive plan, the overall policies, policy number 5 supports this, saying that neighborhoods and centers should be compact, pedestrian-oriented, and mixed use when possible. There is established pre-existing density with the point apartments less than half mile to the west of the subject site, as well as the single-family residential neighborhood of Woodbridge. Residents in the existing residents there and proposed residents would have pedestrian access to local parks, the Centennial Trail, Panda Express, Walmart. Overarching policy number 6 states that neighborhoods and centers should be the preferred pattern of development, and those zoning districts focusing on a single use or type should be that of an exception. This area is developing into a variety of mixed residential densities with pre-existing apartments there already, single-family residential there already. They have access to outdoor recreation, and they're serviced by existing commercial services. Essentially, there is no single use dominating this area. Policy number 7 encourages a balance of land uses to help Post Falls remain a desirable, stable, and sustainable community. Multifamily provides housing for a wide demographic of people just starting out, people that are retired, people that are working, single family parents, and that 2% of our vacancy rate in Post Falls for multifamily is 2%, which is extremely low. I think that the average is around 5 to 7%, so that just shows you the need for it.
How current is that statistic?
It's pretty current.
Okay.
I couldn't give you an exact date. I can look it up. I'm happy to offer you that information.
That's fine.
That was published in the most recent Kootenai County market forecast that they do in 2019. I think it was in February or March
perfect.
when,
Yeah, it was
when we
February.
went to
Okay.
that. So.
And then the specific residential policies is policy number 2. Throughout the community, a range of housing types and prices should be provided to accommodate diverse ages and incomes and provide effective, affordable housing. Multifamily currently is about 23% of our housing stock, so that says that almost a quarter of our population chooses to live in multifamily or needs to live in multifamily. And it supplies people with the option of location and affordability that maybe single-family residential may not provide for some people. There are some proposed conditions that have been suggested for the site, and that is 1, the site will require extensions of sanitary sewer off-site along Saltese Way to provide service to a majority of the site. Sewer extensions are the responsibility of the project proponent. And 2, that the access point on Beck Road may be restricted to right in, right out. I think that there might be concern that with left turn movements that collisions might develop. These are the agencies notified. And no comments have been received from any of the other agencies. Do you have any questions or comments about the subject site?
Questions for staff?
I guess it was, 2 or 3 months ago, the UPS facility, is that literally going to be right across the street?
It is, and you know, and I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm going to bear with me while I bring this back. That is an approved special use permit that has been approved, and you can see to the south of it. And, you know, some might say that multifamily could be a buffer to the residents there. I mean, that might be something that could be thought about.
Could you do me one more favor while you're on that slide? Can you show me where are approximately the point apartments?
I'm actually going to go up further. Oh, sorry.
And to note, the trucking facility is not the UPS facility, is directly south, but
So yeah, the
UPS
trucking
was
facility
part of that special use permit, though.
Sorry, John. The trucking facility is right here, and then the UPS is scheduled to go further south.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Point Apartments are right here.
Okay.
In this little, kind of like a triangle shaped right there. And like I said, Walmart's right here. I've got Cisco right here, and the interstate running right there.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much. Go ahead and bring up the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, fellow Commissioners. Drew Dittman, Lake City Engineering, 126 East Poplar Avenue in the great city of Coeur d'Alene. Not that Post Falls isn't great, but Coeur d'Alene is great as well. Representing Rudine Development tonight, they are here. If we need to bring them up in rebuttal, maybe to answer some questions, they're here to answer some questions. Again, Beck Road, apartments, you can see the project here highlighted in red. So you've got Beck Road running north-south, Jacqueline Road running east-west, Southeast Way, the original Woodbridge development here, and then the recently done Woodbridge South development. It's interesting, many of you know, some of you may not know, I've been involved with the Expo project for almost 20 years now. Staff knows this, Bill and Rob know this. It's been almost 20 years now that I've been involved with Jim Watson and this entire Expo property from Pleasant View to Beck, Interstate 90 to Celtice. So I'm very familiar with this piece of property. Actually excited about this project. We've seen dozens of interests and uses and projects come and go on this piece and other pieces. And so to have something solid and concrete and a good fit for the neighborhood actually is a little bit exciting for me because I have been involved in this project so long. Again, there's subject property in the middle. It's zoned CCS commercial. You have commercial to the south, obviously industrial across Celtice Way, across the railroad tracks. And then you have the Woodbridge, lost my cursor, yeah, Woodbridge here, and then a little bit of Woodbridge South here. Multifamily is an allowed use in the commercial zone through the special use permit process. That's why we're here. Here's the site plan. Jamie showed you this. So we've got a combination of really 3 different building types. You've got 24-unit building here, and here you've got a different version of a 24-unit building here, a 12-unit building down here in the corner. This is the clubhouse, and then these small rectangular lines represent garages that will be built. And as Jamie said, we've pulled some of the buildings away from the single-family residential to act as a little bit of buffer. If you've been following what we're doing out at the Crown Point Apartments, these are very similar, same developer, very similar building, very similar product to what's being built out at Crown Point right now. 132 units on a little less than 7.5 acres. These are the special use permit criteria. Jamie went through all of this. It's in the staff report. It's in the narrative and the application materials that we submitted. So I'm not going to go through this unless there's additional questions on it. But I think Jamie did a good job covering that. Just some renderings of the buildings. Thought you guys might find that interesting to see. Again, very similar product to what these guys are doing out at Crown Point. The 24-unit buildings are 3 stories, which are allowed per the R3 standards. Second building type, very similar to the first. The end of the building is slightly tweaked and slightly different, but another 24-unit building. And then we've got the clubhouse. I think I put a floor plan of the clubhouse. It's a cool clubhouse. They've got a little rec center in the clubhouse, a big great room, fireplace, TV kind of thing, meeting area for residents. So it's kind of a cool clubhouse that they've got designed. With that, I think, well, I will stand for questions. I wanted to say we are aware of the conditions that Jamie talked about. We are aware of that there's some offsite sewer that needs to be put in, about 750 feet of sewer. We do recognize that. We know that we need to do it, acknowledge that we need to do it, so we don't take any exception to the conditions.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
Questions for applicant?
Do you have on-site guest parking? And if so, how much are you providing?
You know what, I didn't show the parking calculations on here, and I wish I should have, but we have a ton of off-site parking. So you can see the individual stalls that are designated on the site plan all the way around. So
But
we're
are those assigned to units?
no, we're way over the requirements. I wish I don't have the numbers. I might have them in my narrative, and maybe in rebuttal I can come back up and give you the exact numbers. But we're over the threshold as required by code. It makes sense. I can tell you, we do a lot of apartment projects, and if you don't have guest parking, it kills a project. It really does. And so even though you may be only required to have 1 or 1.5 per unit, you really need above 2 parking stalls per unit. So.
Any other questions for
Additional
applicant?
questions for me?
No, I don't have any.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public hearing comments. We have 2 individuals that do not wish to speak that are in opposition. Is it Desiree Hall and Jacob Arata? Both are in opposition, that do not wish to speak. Other individual in opposition that does wish to speak, Mr. Flowers.
Good evening again, Bob Flowers. Well, where do I begin on this? How about where the city of Post Falls spent a whole lot of money through their Urban Renewal Commission to develop this land out there? It was developed as industrial and CCS. It was not intended for apartment complexes. And even though I've been instructed that CCS being changed to multifamily, high-density apartments is not a loophole, I consider it one. Because CCS means things like gas stations, convenience stores, small businesses to support all the housing that is directly next to this project. Things to help folks not have to drive all the way into town. We may be sitting at 2% right now vacancy rate, but if all the projects that have been approved were built out at this point, we would be looking closer to 4.5 to 5%. We're already over the 25% point when these other projects are done, as far as the number of apartments in this area. Out there, those units are going to cost the city. They say development is supposed to pay for itself. Well, it doesn't. Every dollar that the city is going to collect from this is going to cost us between $1.10 and $1.20. So why should we allow somebody to make a load of money on the backs of the citizens of Post Falls? It doesn't fit out there. It doesn't belong out there. The land was not developed for apartments. It was developed for business, and that's what should be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Applicant, rebuttal?
Again, Drew Dittman, Lake City Engineering. For the record, I'll let staff or John or somebody talk about taxes and tax revenue generated. I don't want to get into that, but residential isn't allowed use in the CCNS through this process that we're going through. You really want your high-density residential located next to major roadways. Celtice Way is a principal arterial, if I'm not mistaken. Jacqueline's a local collector. I mean, they're big roads. They're designed to handle high-density traffic, and that's really where you want it. It's a good buffer, as was Jamie talked a little bit about in her presentation, between some of the other commercial and industrial uses, and it's a good project, and I think it fits. Like I said, I've been involved in the Watson property for 20 years now, and I'm standing here telling you guys I think it's a good fit. It's a great location for it, and it's allowed use in the code and through this process, and that's why we're here tonight. So, questions for me?
I do have a question. Where it backs up to Woodbridge,
Yes.
there's no buffer there except for some garages? I mean, they're going to be back,
So-
and then you have a 3-story apartment building back right there?
So there is actually within part of Woodbridge. You see this is an asphalt trail here. It's a 10-foot wide asphalt trail that actually sits in a 20-foot wide tract that is a buffer. That was actually a part of the original Woodbridge subdivision. So there's between the rear lots of these lots here and where the property line starts, there actually is a 20-foot buffer that exists today.
And then about how far in are you
Have
again?
Another, and you can't really tell it here, but there's a good, see this line here, there's a 10-foot irrigation easement that runs through here that'll be part of the buffer.
Okay.
But to the back of these buildings is 15 feet. So there's actually 35 feet of buffer between the back of the garages and the back of the Woodbridge residential lots built in.
So it's
which
30,
is
it's
way more
35 feet to a single level garage.
to a single level garage, to a single story garage. And then
And then
from
another-
to the apartments, it's 100 feet maybe to the apartment building.
Okay.
But there is an inherent buffer that's there. This trail exists today. It was built as a part of the Woodbridge project. And that's the trail that actually goes all the way around Woodbridge. It goes down Expo Parkway now that we did Woodbridge South. It connects to all the parks that are in both of those projects. So there is inherently a buffer there already.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Any other points of clarification?
Yeah, I have one. I don't know, John, you can answer this, but, so we're at 23% multifamily now. If we had all of our projects complete, do you have an estimate of where we would be and how that compares with their surrounding areas?
It'd be tough to assess. We're also processing single-family homes concurrent with the multifamily development, and they're going in with a demand. I would assume that if the multifamily, as they're developing it, starts getting to that 5 to 7% vacancy rate, it's going to start deterring multifamily developers to be developing more units, as it'll become a liability for them at that point, and then they'll wait for that vacancy rate to drop, and then they'll add more to that. As far as the balance of single family, you see tonight we got 8 lots, plus we got 90 lots for a single family, plus we have already some previously platted lots. So the timing of all that, really that's going to be market driven.
And John, 2 points for clarification. This is an allowable special use permit within CCS, correct?
Correct.
And correct that Jamie did mention that this is well within the range of the comprehensive plan, correct?
Yeah, she looked at the 4 review criteria for a special use permit,
That's
and
all I
that was
needed.
part of that.
Thank you.
And this is in a current urban renewal district?
I can't remember if it expired.
I believe that's the case. I don't know what the exact boundaries are out there.
Okay.
And that is one of the reasons that I asked the question about the comprehensive plan. Warren, you might be able to speak to that when we start dealing with a variety of factors, including urban renewal district. I'm assuming ultimately, we're looking at comprehensive plan over everything else?
Sure. So just like all of the hearing items that we have, the only things that we get to consider are the review criteria that are embodied in our city codes. So whether it's within the district or not, it's almost irrelevant. What we're looking at is what is the review criteria and what is the information that came in as part of the public hearing.
So as far as our decision goes,
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
that's
based
kind of a
on-
moot point, is what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would tell you that when we establish new urban renewal districts, actually you saw this last year because we did one last year, one of the things that we look at is we review the urban renewal plan against the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan really the urban renewal plan is supposed to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Our decisions here are consistent with our code, which are consistent with our comprehensive plan. So that's really the original touchstone, not so much whether it complies with the urban renewal plan.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, clarification? No? Okay, go ahead and close the public hearing, and I would,
Did you, what has he got on?
Flash on.
He's got his flash on. Oh. Okay.
we just keep seeing, it looks like a flashlight.
Flashlight came on.
Commissioner comments, thoughts?
I'm glad to see stuff moving out there. And we've tried to get stuff through out there before, and it's just, we're not getting anything going out there very well. I think it would be a good buffer for that, the new trucking facility, an added buffer there for the single family at Woodbridge. I would prefer to see 2-story units on that one instead of 3-story, but I guess there was no homeowners who came here to say that they were unhappy with that, so other than that.
Anyone else?
It is an allowable use, and it does fit well there. My concern really is with the urban renewal, but since that really isn't something that I can be considering in this tonight, then I think it probably fits. It works, and it is an allowable use.
Sam? Anything to add?
Sure.
Yeah, same.
Time and time again, I go back to the fact that we have a very educated and very well-trained staff that work very hard to put these forth, and they don't put forth questionable items, and it's our responsibility to look at it. That's why I go back that this is allowable within a special use permit as far as CCS, and it does fall within the comprehensive plan. So, with that being said, I would entertain a motion from anyone at this moment.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll move to approve Beck Room Apartment Special Use Permit, file name USE 0002, 2019. Adopting the findings, conclusions, and conditions of 1 and 2 contained in the staff report.
I second.
And a motion and a second, call for vote.
Hampe,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Steffensen.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to public hearing. Line item C of the evening, Green Meadow Subdivision. Go ahead and open that up.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ethan Porter, City Planner for the City of Post Falls. I'm here to present the Green Meadow Subdivision Case File SUBD-10-2019. The owner of this property is Green Meadows LLC, and the applicant is Eric Olson from Olson Engineering, requesting to subdivide approximately 23.65 acres into 90 single-family residential lots. So here you'll see the project location in the red hatch. Here you have Killdeer Lane going directly through it, and then Greens Ferry going north and south, with Prairie north of it, running east and west. Highway 41 is to the east. Current land use for this area is a large lot residential. The physical characteristics are agricultural lands, and the water provider is Ross Point Water District. The sewer provider is the City of Post Falls. Like I said, it's 90 single-family residential lots, and it's proposed to be developed in a single phase. The density is 3.81 units per acre, which is under the R1 zoning maximum of 5 units per acre. Looking at the subdivision review criteria for this, the first one is dealing with water capacity and supply, and the Exhibit A6 in your staff report shows the Ross Point Water District will serve letter from them being able to serve this subdivision. Subdivision review criteria 2 discusses the sanitary sewer capacity and accommodation for this, which it will be able to accommodate. The City of Post Falls will have adequate provisions for this subdivision. And then review criteria 3 for the streets being consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. As you can see, the street network as it's proposed to be laid out. We have Killdeer right here running through, and this is oriented north to the right side here. What? Greens Ferry? I'm sorry, excuse me, yes, this is Greens Ferry Road. That north arrow definitely throws me off. So the street network, as you can see, is laid out, and it's showing for proposed connection throughout as further development in the county land surrounding it. Looking at the subdivision review criteria 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards. There have been no topographical hazards identified on this property. Subdivision review criteria 5 discusses the zoning and the proposed use, and use conforms to other requirements found within the code for the city. And here you can see the black hatched is the current proposal for the Green Meadows subdivision, which is zoned as R1, and it's surrounded by the surrounding white as county lands, and then to the west you have R1, and then further to the closer to Highway 41 to the east is a commercial corridor, as well as your R1 moving closer to the proposed subdivision. So staff has reviewed and looked and determined that the subdivision does meet the lot width requirements of 60 feet for lot widths, and then the 6,500 square foot for lots have been met as well throughout the subdivision. There are 2 existing structures here, homes, and these are larger lots right here, and then as well as right here. These are pre-existing structures and homes already going to be included within the subdivision, and they have a much higher square footage for those lots. Looking at subdivision review criteria 6, discusses the community not bearing its no more than its fair share of costs, and so as mentioned previously tonight, the growth pays for itself through impact fees within the building permit application process. And these are the agencies that were routed. And then the comments received were only from Post Falls Police Department, who remain neutral on the project. Do you have further questions for me?
Questions for staff? No. No? Okay, thank you very much. Applicant?
Oh, we went through this last time, didn't we? Good evening, everyone. Eric Olson, Olson Engineering, 705 South Riverside Harbor Drive in the great city of Post Falls. All right. So I was here last month in front of most of you, and we presented an annexation on the property to the northeast, also owned by the Rood family. And so just wanted to bring that to your attention, and you had this slide at that one as well, just kind of showing some of the big picture utility improvements. We'll be bringing water and sewer up Greens Ferry from the elementary school through the project. 10-inch sewer, 16 feet deep, so pretty big cost commitment, along with the frontage improvements on Greens Ferry and Killdeer, and also about a 2,000-foot water main extension that the Water District wants from the east side of our project down Killdeer, making a loop back to Cecil. So I just wanted to, I guess, re-emphasize that the developer is paying for growth on this one. This along with that, we've also got sidewalks and multi-use path along Greens Ferry and Killdeer, getting close to completing a network back to Tullamore on the to the east. And then there was one public comment that we saw that I thought I'd touch on, and the Haug family, Scott and Sharon, had a concern about the well parcel being a part of the project, and this is a map of that well parcel. It's a little triangular parcel. It's kind of an island it's actually within the Greens Ferry right away that was annexed last year on this project, and so Howard Root is also a part owner in that, and we're aware of the engineering department's desire to get the well house here that's encroaching into the right-of-way moved. We saw that as a condition of approval, and so we'll work to get that done, or otherwise satisfy the needs of the engineering department, and no plans to or push to get rid of that well, as it is used for water for the Haugs and another neighbor across the street. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Nope, thank you very much. No comments? So no need for rebuttal? Okay. Commissioners, any questions for staff before we close things out?
I got one question.
Okay.
Greens Ferry and Prairie, is there any bigger long-term plans to help that intersection? Because I know I don't know how many times I've gone through there's an accident. And this is obviously going to have more cars.
Commissioner Steffensen, members of the commission, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. The Post Falls Highway District has designed a traffic signal to go in at the intersection of Prairie Avenue and Greens Ferry Road. They are currently in right-of-way acquisition on that. Their hopes are to get that out to bid and built in the very near future. I know I have been told 2020 for construction. If rights-of-way go according to plan, that is realistic. Otherwise, it might be 2021. But I would anticipate that within the next 1 to 2 years, we will see a traffic signal at that intersection.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Any other questions? Nope. Go ahead and close the hearing out. 90 units of R1. Any comment?
I think it's a good development. They've got decent-sized lots in pretty much the whole development. There's no really small ones, so.
Anybody else?
I think it's a good fit for the area. I'm happy to hear about the traffic signal, the improvements that'll go on Greens Ferry and Killdeer. I think it fits.
This end?
I think it's already annexed. It's an R1. It's nice sized lots. I don't see a problem.
Yeah. You concur?
I concur.
Okay. Then I would look for a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the Green Meadows subdivision SUBD-00010-2019, adopting the findings and conclusions and subject to conditions 1 through 10 as noted in staff report.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. Call for vote.
Steffensen,
Yes.
Hampe,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
I didn't know if you were doing a dramatic pause on that or what was going on. Fair enough.
That's my train of thought.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and open up the final public hearing of the evening. The Tullamore 8th Edition subdivision. This is a two-part, say, subdivision and a PUD.
Good evening again. My name is Jamie Hayes, Planner 1 with the City of Post Falls. I am here to present the Tullamore subdivision and a major PUD amendment, case file SUBD-9-2019 and PUD-3-2019. You're going to be asked to make a decision on the major amendment to the PUD and the subdivision to either approve, conditionally approve, or deny both of those. The owner is Copper Basin Construction, the applicant is Lake City Engineering, and the requested action for the subdivision is to approve to subdivide approximately 6 acres into 36 single-family cottage-style residential PUD lots with an average lot size of 4,750 square feet. In the hatched red here is the project proposal. It's a little hard to see, but Prairie is to the north of the subject site, and we have Killdeer Lane to the south. Highway 41 is to the east of the subject site, and then we have got Charleville to the west. The subdivision is for this rectangular area right here, and with the development of the subdivision, they are going to extend Bogey Drive all the way north up to Prairie, and that is that arm, that hatched red arm right there. That's what that's depicting. The current land use is vacant, and like I said, they're proposing single-family cottage-style residential homes with a density of 6 units per acre with a total of 36 single-family lots. The water provider is Ross Point, and the sewer provider is the City of Post Falls. To give you a little history on the Tullamore PUD, because I know I needed it to present this, it was approved in 2006 with a mixed-use community. What we're going to focus on right now is just the single-family residential aspect of this overall PUD. They were approved in 2006 to construct 383 single-family homes. They have constructed a total of 347 as of right now, leaving the remaining 36 single-family homes to be developed. I won't go through the breakdown of what has been developed and platted and done already. You can read that. And that information is easily accessible. The reason for the major PUD amendment, though, is to allocate where the remaining single-family is going to be located. They are proposing Block D and E, and also to establish the development standards that are not typical with the R1 single-family zoning district, hence the PUD. Here you can see where Block D and E is, as I referenced it, but you're probably wondering, where is that? Where is that in location to this overall PUD and this general development? And I'm just going to reorient you real quick. We've got Hope Avenue right here and Killdeer Lane right here. And then I want to show you that this multicolored hatched mark is where Bogey is going to be extended. And so you can see that was that arm of that hatched red that I spoke about earlier. Let's move on. And here you can see that a little close-up view of Block D and E and how that's applying to that built environment. So with the proposed development, there are some conditions that they are proposing. In your staff report, I think that there were 9 conditions mentioned in there. I would like to, maybe add this in as a 10th to be memorialized. This is pretty important, what they're requesting. And this is the bulk density placement of their development. In red is the R1, the standard R1 bulk density placement regulations that we apply to a single family development. And since this is a PUD, they're asking for modifications. The minimum lot size is proposed to be 4,650 square feet with an average lot size of 4,750 square feet. In an R1 development, the minimum is 6,500 square feet. Their maximum lot coverage that they're requesting is 60, whereas in R1, it would be 40%. The front setback of 10 feet in an R1, the minimum is 15 feet. A side setback of 5 for a side flanking street, meaning that there is a street running along someone's side yard. Here, and with their the standard R1 would be 15. They're asking for 5 to 10. 10 being side flanking, 5 being in between homes, just for clarification. A rear setback of 5, whereas an R1 would have 10, and a minimum lot width of 52, whereas our minimum lot width for single-family residential in an R1 zone is 60. Fire and emergency access for the proposed subdivision have been reviewed by Kootenai County Fire and Rescue. Now, there's 4 criteria with the PUD review. One is that the proposed PUD provides for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development. Dry utilities are in place since it's a developing site. We talked about Ross Point Water District. We talked being the water provider. We talked about Post Falls being the water reclamation. There is, with these cottage-style homes, a driveway and a garage will be required, standard 20-foot length for the driveway pad. And there will be on-street parking on their private road, which I will get to in just a second. The second criteria is that the proposed PUD provides an integrated transportation network, providing for continuation of streets, traffic volume with the transportation master plan, traffic circulation, snow storage, and pedestrian and bicycle accessibility. The transportation master plan shows that it can support any additional homes in this area. There is going to be on-street parking, there's going to be garages, there's going to be parking pads. They do have an area that they have designated for snow storage, and the general area has a lot of parks, and it's being developed with sidewalks for pedestrian and bicycle accessibility. Number 3 is that it enhances the community design by incorporating the site's natural, scenic, and historic features, which there are none in this very flat area. Integrating compatible land uses. There is a multi-family apartment complex to the west, directly to the west of the subject site, and additional cottage housing that is already developed to the southwest of this site, across the street, basically. As far as buffering compatible uses, it could potentially be considered buffering from Highway 41 and from the internal residents that are already there, and by providing open space. The Tullamore PUD has provided quite a lot of open space and parks for the community to enjoy. And that it provides for timely development, ensuring that each structure as well as common area will be maintained. They have designated an HOA to maintain the development, the streets, swales, trees. And I wanted to show you that, so this is Block D right here. This is the multifamily directly to the west. We have a single family development to the north, and these were the cottage style homes that are already there that I wanted to point out kind of to the southwest across from Killdeer Avenue. The picture here is looking east on Killdeer, when you can see the cottage-style housing on my right and the multifamily on my left. The proposal is to be developed behind the multifamily on the left. This is the proposed layout of the Tullamore A subdivision and PUD. You can, as I spoke about earlier, this is a snow removal site that they have allocated. This is their private road. Sorry, I lost control of my mouse there for a minute, with on-street parking, and then these are the private roads and the continuation of Bogey, as you can see right here. And this would actually be running north and south, even though it's kind of flopped on the PowerPoint right here. And like I said, they're all going to have driveways and garages. As far as a subdivision review criteria, some of this is overlapping with the PUD, so I'm not going to go over them in detail like I did with the PUD. I'll just start with number 1, and that water supply has been defined. We discussed that that's going to be Ross Point. The adequate provisions for public sewage, we discussed that that's going to be Post Falls, and that the proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, which we discussed. All areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards, there are none, and that the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use and the use conforming to other requirements found in this code. Well, we know that this is a community commercial service zone because it's red, and that the yellow is designating single-family residential, and that the red and white hatched is a technology mix zone. This is part of the reason why the PUD is being requested, since it is in a commercial zone. And that the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs, which we've discussed, that being part of the streets, public safety, and parks that are allocated with the building permit when it's issued. I want to go back to one other thing real quick and talk about the cottage-style homes and who that might be appealing to. Since there is a 60% lot coverage with a home like this, this might be appealing to retired people that are looking to have a home but maybe maintain less of a yard. Maybe a working mom with her kids, wants to have a home but doesn't want to have a huge yard to maintain, or people that are making that transition out of multifamily into a home. So you kind of get that same feel but with less maybe work to do as far as maintenance. The regular agencies have been routed, and as far as comments received, the Post Falls Police Department, it remains neutral on the project. And once again, here's the proposal. Do you have any questions or comments?
Questions for Jamie?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No? Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Dittman.
Getting a double dose of Dittman tonight.
Coeur d'Alene guy again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Heard that one up, didn't I? All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Drew Dittman, Lake City Engineering, 126 Poplar Street in Coeur d'Alene. Representing tonight Copper Basin Construction, Mr. Steve White's here tonight, can maybe jump in and answer questions if he needs to. From the greatest city of Hayden? No.
What's happening?
Controlled, Chairman.
Haven't been involved in the Tullamore project quite as long as I've been involved in the Expo project, but Steve bought it 2010, we were thinking, so we've been involved in this project for 9 good years. As you guys have known, I've been in front of you a handful of times to talk about various phases of the project. And as Jamie did, great minds think alike, I was going to give a little bit of an overview of where the project stands today. The original Tullamore PUD, 232 acres, 96 of which were R1, 136 were CCS, was approved for 500,000 square feet of commercial, 383 single-family homes, 520 multifamily, and 118 assisted living, which really never happened. As of today, constructed, there's about 8,000 square feet of commercial out there. So commercial's been pretty flat. We know that. I'll get to that in a little bit. We've built 347 single family, which is the same number as Jamie said, so I'm glad our numbers match. 486 multifamily. So with the 8th edition, it's all single family. We're proposing 36 single family, which as you can see will take us out of single family. We are done. This is the last phase of single family in the Tullamore project. There's almost 34 units of multifamily left, but for practical purposes, multifamily is done as well. So here's Tullamore, and again, I've tilted it. North is to the left. So you have Highway 41 here, Prairie Avenue here. Charleville runs right through the middle, and then Hope in the middle. And you can see this is all the single-family stuff. You have some of the multifamily that was down on this end. We're currently under construction on multifamily in Block F. We have the cottage product that we did 2 years ago here, the apartments that Mr. Prescott is doing here, and then Tullamore 7th edition, more single-family that we did here last year. So the project tonight, Tullamore 8th edition, I've highlighted there in blue. As Jamie has said, it's in Block E and Block D. Now that probably doesn't mean anything to you guys, but this is the block diagram that we've worked with staff on creating so that as this project develops out, when you develop in block D and E, for example, it triggers certain improvements that get done. This is our way of managing the growth within the Tullamore project so that we know that certain developments or certain subdivisions trigger certain improvements. So that's what the blocks mean. As you can see, as Jamie talked about, Bogey Drive comes up and it currently stops right here. We're under construction on Bogey on this portion to Hope right now. We're under construction on Hope Avenue out to Highway 41 right now. We've worked with ITD on that and recently made some changes to our plans so that their plans and our plans kind of jive up. So we're good on that. But as you can see, Bogey Avenue is going to continue here and ultimately out to Prairie. Now this 36 lot project here will create Bogey from here to here, leaving only the piece in the commercial block A, which is all commercial property to be developed. So what's left to be built, everything in red. So block F is currently under construction. As I said, you've got the city park, which is almost done. The dedication's next week, 2 weeks?
Soon.
Soon, 21st, I think, something, 21st. So hopefully we'll see everybody there for that. That's exciting to see that done. I know the city parks department's done a great job on that. So everything that you see left in red is commercial. As I said, we're out of residential, so this blue will be the last phase of residential. So same map that Jamie had up. Again, here's Killdeer Avenue. Killdeer Avenue is currently built to about right here. We'll build the intersection, and then we'll build Bogey, and this map doesn't show it, but Bogey will extend all the way out to Prairie with a right in, right out turning movement on Prairie. 36 lots, 6 acres. We're about 6 units to the acre. And Jamie went through this. I'm not going to go through the PUD and subdivision criteria. Jamie's done that. It's in the staff report. It's in our narrative. You guys are well aware of that, so I won't hash through that. But some of the amendments we're asking for, again, we're allocating the 36 single-family units specifically to block D and E. We have to do that. That's part of that block plan that I showed you. We're asking for a minimum lot size of 4,650 square feet, 52-foot wide lots. However, we are asking for an increase in the lot coverage to 60%. That allows us to build bigger houses in there. So even though the lots are smaller, you're still going to see some bigger houses. You're going to see 1,500 to 2,500 square foot houses in there. As Jamie had indicated, and I was planning on talking about that, but you're going to get some retirees, people who want less maintenance, maybe people who are transitioning from multifamily apartments into single family. But that increase in the lot coverage to 60% allows us to build the bigger house on a smaller, low maintenance lot. Setbacks, we're asking for a reduction in the front to 10 feet. However, the driveway will still be 20 foot to allow for off-street parking in front of the garage. Houses will have garages. Side yard of 5 feet and 15-foot public flanking. I think Jamie's presentation said 10. We're okay with the 15 feet. It fits with our plan. We've accommodated those lots that flank the public street. We've made those wider to accommodate that 15-foot. And a rear yard reduction from 10 foot to 5 foot. Again, that allows us to build that bigger house on a smaller lot. Here's the layout again that Jamie had put up. So we've got a private street that comes in here. We've got some off-street parking. We've got a snow storage area at the end of the street, a nice, great straight line to push all the snow in. And then we have some driveways that are going to go out to Bogey Drive. It's a little bit of a continuation of, or maybe a mix of some of the cottage product that we've done earlier. We did 2 years ago, and some of the stuff we did 3 or 4 years ago. I remember we had some T streets with some clustered type housing. It's kind of a combination of that type product. But again, single family, and it takes us through all of the single family in Tullamore. Proud to say, we got there. Questions for me?
No, I don't think so.
Any questions for applicant?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You know, actually, Drew, if you...
Too late.
Oh, sorry. If you could put back up what you would want, that 10th condition, that's pretty lengthy. I mean, right, like, that would be another condition. That's what you're asking, is for this to be another condition. There's 1 through 9 in the staff report.
Correct. We're asking for this to be a condition that's in the staff report. It's in the findings. We know what we're responsible to do. The city knows what they've approved.
Okay, this is not in the staff report, though.
I don't
This
think it
was
is.
We only had 9 conditions. There wasn't a 10th condition. Purpose of that was to discuss this, and if there was changes, then we could put those changes as far as the a reasoned decision.
Okay, okay. I was just asking because if it's not up there.
And there were changes, like I said, we had originally proposed 10 foot on the flanking street. Where we've looked at it, we're okay with the 15 feet. We can make that work with the lots. So this is what we'd like. You can make that condition number 10.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you again.
We have no public hearing comments, correct?
Correct.
No need for rebuttal. Questions? Comments, staff?
Here, it fits in there.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close it out. Anything to add?
I like the product. I think it's a little bit different. It's not, it's a little bit different than the high density, the multifamily, it kind of meets a little bit of a different niche, a little bit of a different need, and I like that about it.
It's interesting when you start looking at the demographic of individuals moving into Kootenai County, but particularly Post Falls. I would think that the age demographic of folks that are coming in would really enjoy that type of product. And the fact of those of us that have seen this since, 2006, to see it get to this point is fantastic as well. So that being said, I'd entertain a motion.
I'm not sure. Is it one motion is what I'm sure I can't.
You can do one motion.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll give it a shot then. Okay.
PUD first and then the other one.
Okay, so no, do it in one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. I move to approve the Tullamore 8th edition subdivision and PUD amendment, file number SUBD-0009-2019/PUD-003. With conditions 1 through 9 as contained in the staff report, and condition 10, condition 10.
As referenced by the applicant?
As referenced by the applicant.
You got it.
I second.
Well done. Got a motion and a second, call for vote.
Hampe,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Steffensen.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 5, new business. Mr. Manley, any new business this evening?
There's none.
Yay. Oh,
Okay. Any staff comments?
It's going to get hot.
It is going to get hot.
it is
Absolutely.
already, yeah, it is.
Commission comments, anything for the good of the order? Okay. Then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.